I've said many times on this channel that one of the primary reasons why I love Dubai and the UAE is that this place is constantly improving. And today, banking in the UAE has just got much better, thanks to some amazing news that have just come out of the UAE. Specifically, what we're talking about is that the EU has removed the UAE from its high-risk AML list. So the UAE used to be part of what's called like a high risk list for anti-money laundering activities, and now they have been removed from this list. And this of course follows the UAE's removal from the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF's grey list as well. So why is this significant? And specifically, how actually does this help someone practically living or considering living in the UAE? So in this video, I'm going to cover what this removal from this high risk AML list and this FATF list means, why this is important, why this is something that you should care about, and how specifically and practically this will actually make banking and any kind of financial infrastructure in the UAE much better going forward. But first of all, if you haven't moved to Dubai yet and you're looking for help with relocating to the UAE, this is a process that is very smooth, very easy if done correctly, but can be an absolute nightmare if not done correctly. Which is why on this channel I partner with the best company in the market, GenZone, with whom we have helped more than 800 people relocate to Dubai. What we offer is an all-in-one service to help you leave your home country and establish yourself here in the UAE, whether you want to live here full time or just spend enough time here for tax residency or set up a company here, anything related to the UAE. We are the best people on the market. And there's a reason why our reviews are so good, because we don't offer the same standard of service as most companies in the UAE. The most agencies who are setting up people in UAE really don't care about the customers. They just want to churn out as many people as possible and just give the lowest standard of service. And after you are done, you're going to find out this hidden fee here, this hidden cost there. With us, it's one fully transparent upfront fee that covers absolutely everything, including all the government fees. And we do not charge any renewal fees or any reoccurring fees whatsoever for any of this service. So if you're interested, you can book a free consultation down below in the description, or you can message my team on WhatsApp by scanning this QR code right here. So what does this mean? What even is the AML list, and why was the UAE on this list in the first place, and how was this making our life in the UAE more difficult? Well, essentially, if you have been in the UAE, you will be aware that regulations here are not quite as stringent as they are, for example, in the West. Now, in a lot of ways, this is really great for all of us living here, because that means that when you are doing anything like setting up a business or getting a residency visa or getting your bank accounts or buying property or whatever, there's a lot less bureaucratic hurdles that you have to go through. But of course, there's a downside to this if you go too far in the direction of not having any checks or regulations, which is that this allows criminal activity to happen. For example, if there are not enough checks with banking and property buying processes and everything like that, that allows the 1 or 0.1% of people who are criminals, who are doing something wrong, to use UAE for example, money laundering purposes. And basically a lot of these countries like the EU, the US, etc., they were not convinced that the UAE had enough checks, enough regulations to prevent money laundering, which is why they were on this list. So how would this affect your life here in the UAE? Well, for example, in the banking side, a big thing would be that if you're sending money to your UAE bank account from abroad, like let's say you move to the UAE right now, you move here from Canada or something like that, and you make a transfer from a Canadian bank account to your UAE bank account, you would quite often be questioned by your banks back home, because these transfers will be flagged and they would question you. They would make you like prove that this is a genuine transfer and everything like that. And it made it much more difficult to deal with the UAE financially because of these banking issues. The second thing that would happen is that you might not have access to payment processors here. That is still actually a problem here, that when you are taking payments via your UAE company, the decline rates are very high, and that is related to a lot of these money laundering issues. A lot of credit cards from especially the West will decline payments that are going to UAE companies because they basically flag them as risky payments or whatever. However, since then, as I mentioned before, the UAE is constantly improving. The UAE is not perfect, but what I really love here is that whatever problems they have, they are constantly fixing them, and they're fixing them very quickly, and they take concrete actions to actually address the issues that they have. So what have they done? Well, for example, they have implemented new AML laws to prevent money laundering. There's much stronger compliance monitoring when it comes to banking or real estate or crypto or whatever. There are more regulations, more checks, everything like that, which of course makes your life a bit less convenient, but in exchange, it prevents these kind of money laundering activities from happening. There's always this kind of sweet spot that countries need to find between preventing criminal activity and inconveniencing the people here. There's more reporting rules for real estate transactions. There's licensing requirements for crypto exchanges, mandatory audits for businesses with over 50 million dirhams in revenue, etc., etc., etc. And through all of these actions, now the EU and a lot of these countries are now convinced that the UAE is no longer a high-risk country for money laundering, which is why they have been removed from this list. So why is this a big deal and how this practically help you? Well, on the banking side, dealing with UAE banks is going to be much easier. No longer are there going to be banks that are going to be flagging transfers going to the UAE just because of the country. Now, of course, it might take a while for these individual banks to actually update their policies and things like that. But what I'm saying that over the next year, couple of years, we're going to see it's going to become much more easy to deal with the UAE and UAE banks. And you, as having a UAE bank account, you're going to face much less problems of people who are trying to pay you, but they cannot, and things like that. And on the payment processing side, I'm very optimistic that the payment processing gateways and the options you have on that front are also going to improve here in the UAE. Many of you will be aware, if you're a long-time viewer of this channel, that another business structure that I promote a lot for people living in the UAE is something like, for example, the US LLC. And the reason why we want to also have a US LLC on top of the UAE company is because with the UAE company, payment processing and accepting card payments from your customers is simply quite difficult. So you often have a separate business structure that you need to have just to accept payments, which just adds complexity that you would probably rather not have. And again, I'm not saying that this is going to change immediately now, but in the next couple of years, we could see that now it actually becomes viable to accept payments directly with a UAE company via something like Stripe. You don't have to deal with those declines. There's going to be more payment processing options, more companies that are going to open up payment processes here. Most likely, again, I don't know that for sure, but I'm quite optimistic that all of this is going to improve. So it's very interesting to see where all of this is going to go. Now, on the topic of banking, you might also be wondering, is banking in the UAE safe? Are banks here good? Like, should you trust the banks in the UAE to hold your money? And also, what are the best banks to use if you are considering coming here? Well, these are very common questions, so I actually cover all of them in this video right here. So if you're interested in banking in the UAE, if you're worried about the safety, make sure to watch this video where I cover it in detail and I compare the banks to a lot of Western banks so you can get a very good idea. So watch the video next and I will see you in the next one.